The journey and the process behind a cup of tea is a long one, and it begins much before you begin to steep your favorite cuppa. Growing tea and processing it is an art demanding much care and detail. Tea bushes are planted during monsoons. Regular application of folio, which is a mixture of chemicals such as zinc and magnesium, provide for the health of these bushes. Tea leaves, or the produce, are plucked almost throughout the year. Produce is particularly high post-monsoons due to a spurt in growth. Hand plucking is a traditional method involving hundreds of women plucking tea leaves with their hands. Each of these women will contribute up to 21 kilograms of plucked tea leaves at the end of their working day. Hand plucking is today being supplemented by hand sharing. This method has been introduced to counter the effects of large-scale migration by labourer communities to the big cities.
This weighs around 650 to 700 grams. A self-sharpening blade, carbon tip blade. So it give much faster cutting. See the weight?
You still need strong arms, I think.
Yeah.
The plucked tea leaves are transported to the nearest factory. This particular factory I am visiting belongs to the Balanur Plantations and Industries Limited. This building is around 135 years old, but is replete with modern machinery. I take a stroll and get a closer look at how tea is processed here. The general manager at Balanur, Jeevan Belliyappa, is a friendly gentleman showing me around. He explains how the processing begins with withering.
Withering is a process where you remove only the surface moisture. The moisture will be, say, about 80%. We'll be removing it to 65%. That is only 15% is removed.
Okay.
But that takes almost about 16 hours. So when you roll it, when you press it in the ball, okay,
There is no moisture that
no
comes
moisture, so it releases slowly.
Withering increases caffeine content in the leaves. These leaves are then sifted and shredded.
If any foreign particles are there, that gets separated down there.
Basically like a giant sieve.
Pardon?
Like a giant sieve.
After from the shifter, it comes to a shredder, which filters the leaf.
The shredded leaves still seem fresh and moist. They fill up the air with a heady scent of cut green leaves. The humidity level inside the factory is rather high, as this aids the processing.
Now we have 5 banks of CTC cuts, which crush, tear and curl.
That looks so beautiful.
You can just see the roller here. So that's where crushing, tearing and curling takes place. After crushing, tearing and curling, it gets into the fermentation area. See, fermentation depends on the temperature and the weather conditions. If the weather conditions rainy, we need more time for fermentation. In summer, we need shorter time for fermentation. Fermentation is nothing but oxidization.
Enzymatic oxidization activates antioxidant polyphenols, which are known to be responsible for the color, flavor, and benefits popularly associated with tea.
Once it's fermented, already the colors change so much.
Coppery brown.
Yeah, it's already
So that's
coppery
what
brown.
it shows
Yeah.
the infusion. I told you, when you taste your tea, your color of the infusion is very important. You have to have coppery brown. So if it is under fermented, you don't get a good tea. If it is over fermented, you don't get good tea. So you have to balance it. Now we do both drum fermentation as well as flow fermentation. Drum fermentation half an hour, then flow fermentation 1 hour. Then it fed into the dryer. Now once it goes into the dryer, it's fired at a very high temperature of 130 degree centigrade. Okay. By the time from the dryer discharge it comes out, the moisture will be only 2%.
Wow, okay, that's 55% of moisture taken out.
Out within 18 minutes. The output of the dryer is about 600 kilos per hour.
And there are different shapes and sizes here.
Yes. Now after drying, then it comes into another shifter where the dust and leaf gets separated.
Okay.
Dust grades at Balanur are machine sorted into superfine dust, super red dust, and peco dust. And leaf grades are machine sorted into peco fannings, broken peco, and flowery peco. Each of these brings a slightly varied strength and flavor to the final cup of tea you and I enjoy. In the final phase of tea processing, each grade is winnowed to allow only the denser particles to be taken into the packaged produce. The lighter particles are used to recondition non-premium tea in future processing cycles. Tea is now finally bulked, which means that the produce under a single grade but from different days is mixed together. This mix is then packaged and ready to be shipped to buyers. And that is the story of how the humble tea leaf transforms into a golden cup of tea.
Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
It's our pleasure, and I hope you have enjoyed your stay in our place and visited the factory even.
Absolutely, absolutely. We definitely learned quite a bit about tea and processing as well.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a pleasant day.
Thank you.